Good morning. Good morning. Today is Friday, the 23rd. And today we're going to talk about success and failure. And I am going to be transparent with you. I really hoped that I would be further along doing this. Now, this morning, I was feeling like, wow, you failed again. You just didn't do it. And that goes through everybody's head when we don't get what we want when we want it. I had this grand plan in my head, and I have had problems in the past with follow through. But the truth is, I followed through on this. For 2 weeks, I have spent a minimum of 15 minutes a day. Now, I have always said 15 minutes it can change your life. And it has. I mean, half that bookshelf is cleaned off. Part of that bookshelf is cleaned off. This table is cleaned off. There's one more pile down here that you guys can't see that has some puzzles that we do. We also have a puzzle. We have a puzzle channel that we're launching right now, a jigsaw puzzling channel. So there's a lot going on. But this is the one room in this house that has not been touched, essentially. And it'll be 23 years next month that we've lived in this house. And this is the room that hasn't been touched. It's been the catch-all room. Why wouldn't it take more than 2 weeks at 15 minutes at a time? Now, the thing is, I understand that some people would be like, I'm locking myself in the house for a weekend and I'm doing nothing but decluttering this room. I get that. There are some personalities that that's going to work for. The thing is, most people don't, if they have that mindset, they don't have rooms like this anyway because they deal with it, because they're task oriented. Where for me, I have had situations over the past 2 weeks where I was like, I'm going to do some more. And then something comes up with someone I care about. For an example, one morning I realized my son we were talking, and he is going to a wedding this weekend out of town. And he didn't have a pair of nice khaki pants that fit him comfortably. He has a pair he can squeeze into. But I was like, my dude, trying to teach what I'm also learning, which is, and I got to look at something real quick. Okay. I took a bunch of stuff off of the shelf I have. So again, as we continue going through all this, papers that I want to go through, and I have a feeling a lot of it's going to go into recycle. But what happens is you get to this point where you're like, you're not going to make your quote deadline, which my self-imposed deadline was to have this room ready to paint by today. It is not ready. I will probably be lucky if it's ready by this time next week. By this time next Friday. And I'm going to be traveling. So the other thing that kind of drives me nuts is I love to travel. But when I come back, it often takes me about a week to get back into the swing of things, partially because all I see are all the unfinished things that I've started, or all of the places that need our attention. And little by little, over the past 6 months or so, I've started addressing that. Every one of our bedrooms has been painted in the last year. None of them had been painted since we moved in. In the past, 4 years, we've had both of our bathrooms redone. We've painted our dining room. When the ceiling fell in, now that room had been painted once, but it's been painted again. The ceiling's been repaired, all of that stuff. But once again, as those things were done, a lot of things ended up in this room. So we're slowly getting rid of all that stuff. And I'm not mad about that. And I kind of had this thought this morning where I really felt like I was failing. And I was really angry at myself. And it was just one of these really awful things that I was just really unhappy. And so I felt like I was failing. I felt like I let myself down. And I was feeling sad. And I had to remind myself that guess what? You've made progress. You've made good progress. I'm happy when I walk into this office seeing the progress that I've made. I have more to do, and that's okay. Um, this isn't going to happen until June. I may make this a daily practice, and if nobody watches, so be it. You know, if it does nothing else but helps me document what I've done, so be it. Because it's making me sit down and do the things I want to do. Uh, and sometimes it's as simple as this. This is one of the things in decluttering that, oh man, we've talked about it so many times and there's so much to it. Okay. I went to a weekend with a Facebook ads mastery course. It did not go well. Speaking of things that felt like a failure, at the time, and I don't know if it's still this way with Facebook, but the screen that she was teaching from, when I logged in and I went to my office at the time, mine didn't look like anybody else's. There were basically two main screens that people saw. Mine was completely different. She taught to the other two screens because I was the only one with this situation. And while it wasn't a complete and total waste of time, I actually met some people and they did some training with me, so I made my money back from the retreat, but it was not, it just was not successful as far as Facebook ads. I got a lot of people, but I didn't get buyers. I got people who it just was, there was a lot of stuff to it. Now, this, 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 and this are all workbooks from other retreats. The Facebook ads one, I'm not even going to look through. These I'm going to because I know there's valuable information in there. So it's going to take a few minutes to look through, pull out what I think is important. Because one of the things I loved about my blogging days was retreats. And I got so much information out of them and I met so many great people. I would do that again in a heartbeat. As a matter of fact, I would love to host some. Now, that requires that I have a bit larger following than I have right now, which is fine. But the nuts and bolts of how to run one of those retreats is very much in here. And I am going to, and then I want to talk about something else. I've had so many situations where I have invested money and people have said, it's all you need to do the whole thing by yourself. And then they're recommending this and they're recommending that and they're recommending this. And this was one of those things. I spent more on this program than I have any other program. It was called Elite Blog Academy. And it was billed as the only thing you need to run a successful blog. Was not true. Because in every unit, she gave you this is what you need to do next. And almost every one of them, to do it right, would have cost you money. Now, I started this, oh my gosh, I launched my blog in 2017. And so much has changed since then. So much. And again, see, cost for this, cost for this, cost for this. And that's the thing that really started becoming an issue for me was everything cost more. And I really stretched myself to buy the program. And I was really disappointed after it was all over. Uh, so yeah, all of that stuff. And trust me, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I wasted so much time and money. But I did learn something from everything I did. And that's the other thing is you learn things and you grow. And one of the things I know about myself was, and I learn it over and over, and it's something that I just have to come to terms with, that I'm awfully ambitious in my thoughts, but I'm not always as ambitious in my follow through. And that's not to say, again, I can look at that as a failure, or I can look at that as this time around when I was thinking about it this morning. So this is what ended up happening. Just to make this easier. Okay. So what ended up happening was I had to really think about it. One of the things I haven't quite mastered yet is getting my garden ready to go for the summer. And with food going up the way it is, that's kind of an important thing. So the decision I've made is that I'm going to focus on getting the garden in before I go traveling. Someone will be staying here at my house, and they can water. If it doesn't rain, they can water for me and make sure that my gardens stay the way they should. So that's good. Um, the other thing that's going to do is some of that stuff is in other areas of the house, and it's cluttering up that area of the house. And when I come back, what I want to do is I want to walk into a peaceful home. So that's what I'm going to focus on next week. Will I do some stuff in the office? I really hope that I have time to do that. I hope I get everything else done. If I don't, I don't. Will I be working on it over the weekend? At this point, that's the plan. But if I get the chance to go see my grandchildren, I'm going. If something fun pops up, somebody wants us to do, we're going to go do it. So my hope is to have the gardens in by the end of the weekend. Not sure if that's going to happen or not. We'll see. But that's where we are right now. Will I continue to make this kind of progress? Yes, because progress is progress. If I don't get this done until the end of June, it'll still be done. That'll be the great part of that. And one of the things, and this is I don't know if I would call this a mistake, but I think it was a short-sightedness on my part, is that, and you hear this a lot from people my age and older, you just think there's so much time. And you're like, oh, I'll get to that when. I'll get to that when. Where if you would just put a little effort and a little time in every day, you'll change your life. You'll improve every part of your life. And I know people say, I don't have the time. And I hate when people go, oh, we all have the same 24 hours, because that's not true. I don't care what anybody says. There are 24 hours on the clock, but we do not have the same 24 hours. For example, one of the things that always made me laugh was and it used to really make me feel inadequate, but my best friend's house is always immaculate. She works 60 hours a week. She raised 2 kids. I'm like, how in the world is this possible? We would go to parties at their house and they would be wonderful. And I'm thinking, oh, do all of this. Well, one day I said that to her. I'm like, I feel so inadequate next to you. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, your house is always so clean. Well, here I found out in the early days, She literally threw everything in her laundry room and in her garage. Nobody was allowed in there. She's like, it would take me 2 days to unload my car after a party because it was filled with dirty laundry. I was like, what? She just and I we found that to be true in other like really upscale homes. My husband was looking for a bathroom one time. He said to me, "You are never allowed to complain about our house before a party again." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "They have an office." And he's like, "I'm not kidding you." He's like, "I accidentally went in there, like opened the door because I thought it was the bathroom." And he said, and it was a small office. It was not even half the size of this. But he's like, "I'm not kidding you. The stuff was waist high. They just threw everything in that room." And I was like, wow. But see, that's something a task oriented person can do because the next day they're going to pull everything back out of it. Where somebody like me, it gets put into place and it doesn't always come back. So I just kind of wanted to share all that with you. Oh, and then my friend said, and then they moved to another house. I'm like, yeah, but now you live here and you don't even have a basement. Because their basement was open. It was an open concept basement. So it wasn't something where she could like hide her stuff in the basement or um and her laundry room was down there where you could see it and things like that. So what she said is, "You do know I pay somebody, right?" And I'm like, what do you mean?" And she goes, "Someone come into my house 4 hours a day. I pay them. And they take care of my house for me. They clean out all the cabinets, they straighten up the closets." She's like, "They do everything, including starting my dinner most nights. They do my laundry." Wait a minute. Like, you have a life. She's like, "Yes, I do." So it was just, it's eye opening because, again, you hear this all the time about social media. Don't compare your everyday to someone else's highlight reel. And granted, I mean, she had to be making good money to be able to do this. And she does make good money. She does good work in the world. But um, but she paid somebody to do all the things that I felt like I couldn't do on my own. Like everything I do in a day, she paid somebody to do so that she can go do the work she wants. Interesting concept, isn't it? You know? And the truth is, when my kids were in school all day and I had this great routine and I got a lot done. But it's not like that anymore. And life has changed and we're in transition again. And so that requires some of this stuff, like decluttering. And that's not something that necessarily comes naturally to me. It's something I have to think about. And it doesn't mean it's not doable. It just means it takes effort for me that it doesn't always take for other people who are task oriented. ADHD, people talk about hyperfocus. And yes, I can hyperfocus sometimes. But the thing about hyperfocus for people like me, um, oh, I love that you did that. Oh, that you hired a housekeeper. I really talked about it and thought about it. And I do have a financial thing coming up that I may use part of that money to do the same because just the weekly cleaning. Oh, I'm so proud of you for doing that. JJ's a friend of mine. And so I think you just have to figure it out. I actually had a friend who loved to clean. How crazy is that, right? And I say that because I can't imagine that ever being something I would be like, can't wait to clean my house. But she really enjoyed it. She really enjoyed it. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. But I also am of the opinion that I like to grocery shop. People are like, why don't you have the groceries delivered? I'm like, I actually like grocery shopping. I like going and seeing all my produce and all that good stuff. That's weird for some people. But I'm like, nah, I don't want anybody else picking out my produce. And it's just a thing for me. So anyway, that's just kind of what it is. And by the way, I am going to continue this next week. I'm going to take Monday off because, it is a national holiday in the United States. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I will be here Tuesday through Friday of next week. And like I said, I'll be traveling after that, but I'm going to be working during the day. My husband's going to be working. We're going to do some other things, but we also want to make sure uh, that we have some fun while we're gone. So, but part of what I'm going to be doing is going live still every day, and I'm going to be working on digital clutter. So I may do some screen sharing, and we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about like my thought processes get really weird. I have to sometimes ask for help because of the ADHD. I don't streamline well. And JJ knows this. We work together. So it's always good for me to have a task-oriented person that can help me streamline what I'm thinking because I can be very creative with my thinking, but then when it comes to getting it organized, I can sometimes have a problem. Now, what I'm doing right here, this was all of this um, all of the pages that we did, and it was all online, and I printed them all out because I needed to have that stuff. But what's interesting that I found out from doing a lot of these programs over the years, and this was the first one that I did with blogging, is that so many people, especially the successful ones, they know exactly what to do because they've been doing it for so long that they forget a beginner's mindset where having ADHD, I don't ever lose the beginner mindset because I have to go back to the beginning a lot. And for me, two things, and this is personal, but if this personal part isn't taken care of, the business part never flows. And that is the sweet spot of my home, which for me is my kitchen table, and I have a couple of different podcasts about that. And then the 15-minute theory. And I know we've gone past our 15 minutes, and um, I'll be stopping here in a minute, but the 15-minute theory, and I'm going to be doing I didn't realize I'd never done a podcast about that. So I am going to be doing a podcast about that soon. And maybe that's what I should be calling these. These are like video podcasts that we're just doing something while we're talking instead of just sitting here talking. Um, and maybe I'll bring a couple people. Maybe I could do a live. I don't know if I can do a live with somebody. I think I'd have to do that on a streaming platform. Got to figure that out. But that's why I have a son who's very tech oriented. But anyway, I want to talk about the 15-minute theory because I think it's important and it changed my life. Um, so anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Like I said, it's a holiday weekend here in the US. And I hope you all have something fun planned. My husband has been out of town. He comes back in tonight. Hooray! And then we'll be working on gardens this weekend. So if you watch if you watch on replay and you want to tell me what you're up to this weekend, I will do my best to cheer you on. I absolutely love doing what I do. I want you all, as I said, I'm pivoting a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit on, I think everybody that I know, or a lot of people that I know, are just trying to keep their head above water and make better choices. And that's what I want to help you do. I want to help you do that. A lot of it has to do, I work with people based on their personalities, and I have never found that to be a problem because I think people are just if they know who they are and they know how they are, it's so much easier to uh, get your house in order. And I'm talking about your physical house. I'm talking about your mental house. I'm talking about your emotional house, all of it. And so I am going to, and this is so funny. This is one of the things, balance is overrated. Um, I always say balance is actually BS. And I believe that because if you're so busy trying to balance everything, you're going to be miserable. And I don't want you to be miserable. I want you to get up every morning and feel good about life. And even if you can't feel good about what's going on in the world, which I know a lot of my followers are struggling with right now, what I want you to be able to do is to feel good inside your four walls. And that's actually something my friend JJ is very good at. If you're into the beautifying part of your journey, she is amazing at, well, just check out her blog. It's called Sweet Humble Home. She not only blogs about entertaining and having a beautiful home, she also, I noticed today, I was on Instagram and I saw a post by her. She's got a sale going on in her Etsy shop. So check that out because she has, oh, I wish I actually had mine here. But she makes some of the most beautiful things. And so go check her out. I will try to remember. Hey JJ, if you're still here, will you put the link to your Etsy shop in the comments? So it'd be a lot easier. She knows what her she knows what her links are way better than I do. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you celebrate Memorial Day, remember why we're celebrating the freedoms that we were afforded by people who were willing to give it all for the principles of this country. And I think that's especially poignant right now. So you'll have a wonderful weekend. I love you all very much. And I will see you next week. If you want to know the schedule for next week, sign up for the email list. You can do that on at movingtowardbetter.com. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody.